If you run a business in Australia, you may need to make tax payments throughout the year under the pay-as-you-go withholding system. If you're not sure whether your business needs to make these payments, or you're curious about how it works, keep watching to find out more. Before we go any further, it's important to understand that pay-as-you-go withholding tax is not the same as pay-as-you-go installment tax. If you find this confusing due to their almost identical names, don't worry, you are far from alone. But let me assure you that pay-as-you-go withholding and pay-as-you-go installments are different tax systems. If you want to find out more about pay-as-you-go installments, or if you want to learn an easy way to tell the two taxes apart, check out our videos on those topics, which we have linked to in the description below. Okay, so let's start learning about pay-as-you-go withholding tax. Pay-as-you-go withholding is a tax system in which business owners make payments throughout the year to the Australian Tax Office on behalf of employees, contractors, and other payees. By making partial payments during the year, there is less likelihood of the payees being lumped with a huge tax bill at the end of the year. If your business makes payments to employees or other workers, under the pay-as-you-go withholding system, you are required to collect tax from their payments and send it to the ATO at certain times throughout the year. So now that you know what pay-as-you-go withholding tax is, how do you know if you need to pay it? Well, the basic rule is that you need to make these tax payments to the ATO if your business pays any of the following: employees, company directors, office holders such as members of parliament, contractors with voluntary agreements for you to withhold tax, or suppliers that do not quote their ABN when they do business with you. Now that you know whether you need to make these payments, you may be wondering how you go about registering for the pay-as-you-go withholding tax system. Well, there are a few different ways to register depending on whether or not you have an Australian business number. If you have an ABN, you can register in one of the following ways: through the ATO's online portal, through a tax agent or BAS agent, or by phoning the ATO. If you do not have an ABN, you can register either through a tax agent or BAS agent, or by phoning the ATO. Now that you know how to register for pay-as-you-go withholding tax, you're probably wondering how much tax you need to withhold. For employees, the amounts to withhold are calculated in accordance with the ATO's published tax tables. Each employee's calculation will take into account factors such as their personal income tax rate, the Medicare levy, any offsets or rebates they're entitled to, any HECS or fee help they need to repay, and their residency status. If you pay your employees through a bookkeeping or payroll system, such as Xero or QuickBooks, the pay-as-you-go withholding amounts will be automatically calculated each time you run your payroll, so there is no need for you to work out how much to withhold for each of your employees. Something to keep in mind though, is that if you have an employee who has not provided a tax file number declaration, you must withhold tax at the highest marginal rate plus the Medicare levy. Also, where an employee has a variation notice from the ATO, you will need to withhold tax in accordance with that notice. In this case, you may need to manually adjust the amount of tax withheld in your payroll system for that employee. For contractors, if they have an ABN, you may withhold tax based on a voluntary agreement your business has in place with the contractor. And if you have a supplier that has not quoted an ABN, you must withhold tax at the top marginal rate plus the Medicare levy. Now that you know a bit about how much pay-as-you-go withholding tax to collect, let's find out how often you need to pay the tax to the ATO. The frequency at which you need to pay the ATO mostly depends on the size of your business. The best way to find out what size your business is for the purposes of pay-as-you-go withholding tax and when you need to pay the tax is to go to the ATO's website at ato.gov.au and type PAYG withholding into the search box. Click on the first article in the results, then click on the arrow next to Paying and Reporting Withheld Amounts. Then click on When to Pay and Report on Activity Statements. There you should find an article with up-to-date information on whether your business is a small, medium or large withholder and when you need to pay pay-as-you-go withholding tax to the ATO through your activity statements. Regardless of the size of your business and the frequency at which you report and pay the tax, At the end of the financial year, you may be required to lodge one or more annual reports. The reports you lodge will depend on the types of pay-as-you-go withholding tax you withheld during the year. The ATO uses the information in the annual reports to pre-fill tax returns for people who lodge their returns online or through tax agents. It is therefore important to lodge your pay-as-you-go withholding tax annual returns as soon as possible. So that's it for pay-as-you-go withholding tax. Be sure to also check out our video on pay-as-you-go installment tax and our video on how to tell the two taxes apart.